Imagine saving a king's entire bloodline, only for that same king to sentence you to burn alive. This is the story of Adetola. He was a wandering diviner, a man who traveled from village to village with nothing but a wooden staff and a bag of palm nuts. He had no home, no wife, and no money, but he had a rare and powerful gift. He could hear the voice of the oracle, and the oracle never lied. Wherever Adetola went, miracles followed. The sick were healed, and broken families were restored. People would cry at his feet, thanking him for his help. But Adetola never stayed. He always moved on to help the next village. One evening, while resting under a giant tree, the wind changed. A strange whisper filled the air. The oracle was calling him. Adetola opened his bag and cast his sacred palm nuts onto the dirt. The message was loud and clear. He needed to go to a kingdom called Irawo. A powerful king lived there, but this king was carrying a secret shame so heavy it was destroying him. Adetola packed his bag, ready to help. But before he could take a single step, the oracle spoke again, and the words that followed made Adetola's blood run completely cold. The oracle's voice echoed in his mind. "The land you are about to enter will celebrate you. They will lift your name to the stars. But then they will turn against you. They will condemn you, and a roaring fire will be waiting for you." Adetola froze. The forest around him went completely silent. He had faced ungrateful people before, but this warning felt different. This felt like death. He stared at the palm nuts on the ground. Should he run away? Should he ignore the call? No. He had sworn to serve the oracle, but the oracle gave him one chance to survive. Before entering Irawo, Adetola had to make a very specific sacrifice of protection: a white ram, bitter cola, palm oil, and a white cloth dipped in river water at the exact break of dawn. The rule was strict. If he skipped even one item, the protection would fail, and the fire would consume him. Adetola spent every single cowrie shell he owned to gather the items. That night, alone at a dark crossroads, he performed the ritual perfectly. He did not miss a single step. As the flames of the offering burned out, the wind blew toward the kingdom of Irawo. The path was open. Adetola took a deep breath, picked up his staff, and began the long walk toward his own betrayal. After 2 days of walking, Adetola arrived in Irawo. It was a beautiful, wealthy kingdom with rich soil and flowing rivers. But a heavy cloud of sadness hung over the people. The market was quiet. People whispered in corners. Soon, Adetola learned the dark secret. Oba Kolada, the powerful king, had 7 beautiful wives, but for many years, not a single one had given him a child. Without an heir, the throne was cursed. The next morning, Adetola was brought to the palace. King Kolade sat on a carved wooden throne, looking exhausted and broken. Around him stood his wealthy chiefs. The closest to the king was Chief Ogundel, a proud man with sharp, cold eyes. Ogundel had controlled the king's decisions for years and hated strangers. King Kolade looked at Adetola with sad eyes. "Many herbalists and diviners have come before you," the king said softly. "They promised me children. All of them took my money and failed. Why should I trust you?" Before Adetola could answer, Chief Ogundel leaned forward and sneered loudly. "Do not waste your time, my king. This man is just another poor charlatan looking for free food." Adetola did not show anger. He did not argue. He simply bowed and asked for one chance to consult the oracle inside the palace shrine. Out of sheer desperation, the king agreed. That night, the palace shrine was packed. Every chief and every royal wife watched closely as Adetola sat on the floor. He cast his palm nuts, and the room went dead silent. When Adetola finally spoke, his words shocked everyone. "Your wives are not cursed," he told the king. "The problem comes from your own bloodline. Your father made a spiritual promise to the ancestors before he died, but it was never fulfilled. Until that debt is paid, the royal house will remain empty." The king gasped and gripped his throne. Nobody had ever told him this, but Khalid knew it was the absolute truth. His father had mentioned a forgotten vow on his deathbed, but Khalid had ignored it. Now it was costing him his legacy. "Tell me what to do," the king pleaded, completely humbled. Adetola gave strict instructions. They needed 7 white pigeons, 1 for each wife, a river offering at dawn, and a full night of prayer where the king himself had to kneel before the village shrine. "Do not skip a single step," Adetola warned him. "If anything is missing, the ancestors will reject it." King Khalid did not argue. The most powerful man in the kingdom stripped off his royal robes and prepared to do exactly as the poor wanderer commanded. The sacrifices were about to begin. For 7 days, the kingdom of Irawo held its breath. King Khalid performed every ritual with a pure heart. He fasted. He knelt in the dirt. He prayed until his voice went completely hoarse. On the final night, at the village shrine, Adetola chanted the ancient words. Suddenly, a strong wind rushed through the trees. The fire in the shrine flashed bright blue. The ancestors had accepted the payment. A few weeks later, the impossible happened. Iya Aduni, the king's first wife, fainted in the courtyard. When the royal healer checked her, he rushed to the king with tears of joy. She was pregnant. The kingdom erupted in wild celebration. Drummers filled the streets. People danced until their feet bled. But the miracles did not stop there. A few weeks later, the second wife showed signs of pregnancy. Then the third. Then the fourth. One by one, all 7 of the king's barren wives conceived. It was the greatest blessing the kingdom had ever seen. The king wept with joy. He rewarded Adetola heavily. He gave him a massive compound, expensive clothes, and a high royal title. Adetola was treated like a god. Wherever he walked, villagers bowed and children sang his name. He had saved the entire kingdom. But while the village danced in the light, a deadly jealousy was brewing in the dark. Chief Ogundel stood at his window, watching the villagers praise Adetola. His heart burned with pure, toxic jealousy. For decades, Ogundel was the most respected man in Irawo. When he spoke, the king listened. But now, King Khalid only cared about the wandering diviner. Ogundele felt his power slipping away, and he hated Adetola for it. He was not alone in his anger. There was a local herbalist named Egunjobi. Egunjobi had tried to cure the king's wives years ago, collected a massive payment, and failed miserably. Now, everyone was calling Egunjobi a fake and praising Adetola. Egunjobi's pride was deeply wounded. Late one night, Ogundel invited Egunjobi to his private compound. They sat in the dark, plotting. "This stranger has stolen our respect," Ogundele whispered fiercely. "If we do not destroy him now, we will be forgotten." Egunjobi agreed, asking how they could defeat a man who had just given the king 7 children. Ogundel smiled a wicked, cold smile. "We do not need a weapon," he said. "We only need a whisper. A lie planted in the right ears." He leaned in closer. "Think about it. 7 wives, all barren for years. Suddenly, a strange man arrives. And they are all pregnant at the exact same time. Do you see it? Agunjobi's eyes widened. The plan was brilliant, it was evil, and it was going to work. The plan started the next morning. Agunjobi walked to the busy village market and casually spoke to a palm wine seller. "It is a beautiful miracle, right?" he said with a fake smile. "But isn't it strange how the wives only got pregnant after spending time with that diviner in the shrine?" The palm wine seller frowned, but he repeated the comment to his wife. His wife told her friends at the river. Her friends told the farmers. Like poison in a water well, the rumor spread rapidly. People stopped celebrating and started whispering. "Have you noticed the first baby's eyes?" Someone lied. "They look exactly like Adetola's." It was completely false. But human beings love a scandal more than they love the truth. Within weeks, the way people looked at Adetola changed. The smiles faded. When he walked through the village, people turned their backs. The first 3 wives delivered healthy, beautiful babies, but the joy in the kingdom was already dead. The shadow of suspicion was too thick. Then Ogundel made his final, deadly move. He visited the king's private chamber late at night. Pretending to be sad, he knelt before Obakolade. "My king," he said softly, "I tried to silence the people, but I cannot. They are saying the babies are not yours. They say the diviner is the true father." The king froze. His breathing stopped. The words hit him harder than a physical blow. "What did you say?" he whispered, his hands shaking. Ogundel kept his head bowed, hiding a wicked smile. "The people believe the diviner took advantage of the rituals, my king. They say the children belong to him." Gratitude is a very fragile thing. In one single moment, the king forgot how much Adetola had helped him. His pride took over. A dark, violent anger swallowed his heart. He dismissed Ogundele and sat alone in the dark, staring at his royal staff. He started to believe the lie. Iya Aduni, the first wife, noticed the king's anger the very next day. She knew her husband's violent temper. Terrified for the innocent diviner, she quickly sent a loyal servant to Adetola's compound. "The king's heart has been poisoned by Ogundele," the message said. "Your life is in terrible danger. You must run away tonight." Adetola sat quietly in his room, listening to the warning. He remembered the exact words of the oracle weeks ago. "They will celebrate you, and then they will condemn you." He was not shocked, but his heart broke. He had saved this family, and now they wanted his blood. But Adetola did not pack his bags. He did not run. He reached for his palm nuts instead. Adetola cast the palm nuts onto his wooden floor. The room felt incredibly heavy. The oracle spoke, and its voice was firm. "The storm I promised you has arrived. The fire is already lit in the hearts of these ungrateful men." Adetola closed his eyes. "Should I run?" he asked. The answer came instantly. "No, you made your sacrifice before you entered this land. Your protection is perfect. Do not fight them. Do not run. When they call you to the fire, walk into it bravely." Adetola took a deep breath and put his tools away. He accepted his fate. And outside, the remaining wives gave birth. Now there were 7 healthy babies. But Obakolade did not attend a single naming ceremony. Instead, he summoned his royal council. His face was twisted with fury and deep shame. He told them he wanted Adetola punished. Chief Ogundel, seizing his moment, stood up. "My king, do not just execute him. Let us use the ancient test, the furnace of truth. If he is truly innocent, the ancestors will protect him from the fire. If he is guilty, He will burn to ashes. It was a death sentence disguised as justice. No one had ever survived the furnace. The king agreed immediately. The decree was shouted across the kingdom. In 3 days, Adetola would burn. For 3 long days, Adetola did not leave his compound. He did not cry. He did not beg the king for mercy. He simply prayed and fasted. The villagers were very confused. Usually, a guilty man would try to escape into the forest at night. But Adetola sat as still as a stone. This made some people secretly wonder if they had made a terrible mistake. But the fear of the king kept them completely silent. On the final night, Adetola walked out to the quiet crossroads under the moon. This was the exact spot where he had made his sacrifice weeks ago. He touched the ground and whispered, "I obeyed your instructions. I did not skip a single step. Tomorrow, let the truth defend me." The next morning, the sun rose over a terrifying sight. In the center of the village clearing, a massive furnace made of clay and thick stones had been built. Huge dry logs were stacked inside. The royal guards lit the fire early. By the time the village gathered, the flames were roaring higher than a house. The heat was so intense, it forced the crowd to step far back. Children hid behind their mothers. Women covered their faces. This was not a trial. This was a brutal execution waiting to happen. The royal drums began to beat. It was a slow, terrifying rhythm. Adetola was marched into the clearing wearing a simple white cloth. He looked incredibly peaceful. He did not look like a man walking to his death. Chief Ogundel stood safely behind the king, a wicked smile playing on his lips. Egunjobi watched nervously from the crowd. King Kolad sat on his outdoor throne, refusing to look Adetola in the eye. The chief priest stepped forward, raising his staff toward the roaring flames. "If this man is innocent, let the fire bow before him. If he is guilty of defiling the royal house, let the flames consume him completely." The drums stopped. The crowd went dead silent. Only the violent crackle of the massive fire could be heard. Adetola looked at King Kolad one last time. His eyes held no anger, only deep sadness for a man who threw away a true friend. Then Adetola turned and walked directly toward the furnace. The heat blasted his face. He did not hesitate. He took a step into the inferno, then another. The crowd gasped in horror. Iya Aduni screamed and fell to the dirt. In a matter of seconds, the roaring yellow flames completely swallowed Adetola. He vanished into the fire. Ogundel smiled. The diviner was gone forever. 10 seconds passed, then 20. The fire roared furiously, eating the thick logs. The crowd held its breath, waiting for the smell of burning flesh. King Kolad gripped his royal staff, sweat pouring down his face. Ogundel crossed his arms, totally victorious. But suddenly, the flame shifted. Something was moving inside the center of the roaring furnace. A dark shadow appeared within the bright orange fire. The crowd started screaming. A figure was walking forward, slowly, calmly. Step by step, Adetola walked straight out of the other side of the furnace. The entire village gasped in absolute shock. Adetola stood before them, perfectly alive. His simple white cloth was completely spotless. His skin was smooth and totally unburned. Not a single hair on his head or beard was singed. He did not even smell like smoke. He stood glowing in the sunlight, protected by the perfect sacrifice he had made. The ancestors had spoken with total clarity. The diviner was absolutely innocent. Chaos erupted. Men fell flat on their faces in terror and awe. Women threw dirt on their heads, crying out for forgiveness. Chief Ogundel took a step back, his face turning the color of ash. His legs began to shake uncontrollably. Egunjobi tried to run into the forest, but the royal guards violently grabbed him. The truth had just survived the fire. Justice was swift and brutal. Terrified by the miracle, Egunjobi confessed everything. He screamed that Ogundel had invented the entire rumor out of pure jealousy. The crowd turned on the wicked chief. King Kolad, shaking with massive guilt, stripped Ogundel of his titles and banished both men from the kingdom forever. Then the powerful king walked over to Adetola. Tears streaming down his face, the king fell to his knees in the dirt. "Forgive me," the king cried. "I listened to a serpent and tried to kill the man who saved my bloodline." Adetola gently lifted the king to his feet. "I forgive you," Adetola said softly, "but I cannot stay here." The next morning, Adetola packed his small bag, picked up his staff, and walked out of the kingdom. The people begged him to stay, but his journey was not over. He walked back into the forest, ready to heal the next village. Listen to me very carefully. The morale of this story is powerful. The hands that heal are often the hands that get burned. The very people you sacrifice everything to help might turn against you when jealousy whispers in their ears. But never stop doing good. Never let the betrayal of ungrateful people stop your purpose. Because when they throw you into the fire, the truth will always help you walk out alive.